Hello, everybody. All right. Welcome to Land Management and Data Collection discussion panel. So let me just do some introductions here. So from Constance Lake First Nations, we got Bertha Sutherland, Charlene Megan, and Roger Wesley. And then from Niminemik First Nation, we have Tommy Yellowhead. So if you guys want to start, maybe Bertha, I'll put you first, and you could just tell a bit about your position, what you do.
Okay, my name is Bertha Sutherland. I'm from Constance Lake, and I work for the community as the First Nation Land Use Planner Coordinator. I've been there for almost 3 years, and prior to me being there, Mr. Roger Wesley was there, so that's why I invited Roger to assist us, because he knows more about the past. Because when I came in, I would start working on the terms of reference. So right now, our terms of reference is completed, and so right now we're looking at starting our land designation, like what's going to be protected, what's going to be our economic opportunities, and so Roger has some background of from when he was the regional specialist planner, so Roger can talk about the background of where we came from today, from the past to where we are today. We did a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to break that up into three sections. And I do have I have a working group committee that that we have in the community. We have an elder man and a woman. We have a traditional user, and we also have a youth member. And I also have someone on council that's part of our group. So we meet on a monthly basis, and I also have myself, Charlene, sits with me in our joint planning team. With the government, we have maybe about 3 people from the MNR office from Timmins that are part of our group. So we meet on a monthly basis, and I think that's I can say for now. I'll get Charlene to introduce herself, and she can elaborate on what she does.
Hi, I'm Charlene Megan. I'm the Resource Development Officer for Constance Lake First Nation. I've worked with Lands and Resources for the past 5 years in different capacities. I help Bertha with the land use planning. I input all the GIS data, and we help her make maps and our values from our values collection. And that's pretty much it. Raj?
Okay, I'm Roger Wesley. Currently, I'm the general manager for Constance Lake First Nations Logging Company. I was also a former chief of Constance Lake, 2011, 2013. Prior to that, as Bertha identified, I was the resource planning specialist, pretty much managing this initiative. We have a pretty good PowerPoint to present. It talks about a lot of stuff we're dealing with, plus also identifies the intentions of the First Nation, our end goals of why we're doing this. So aside from that, that's you'll hear more from me later.
Perfect.
Good afternoon. Bonjour. I got in Tommy Yellowhead and Niminemik calling Donji. Niminemik First Nation, that's Summer Beaver, Ontario. I'm currently doing the land use planning for Niminemik First Nation for 2.5 years now. I want to talk about, while I have the time here, I don't really have anything to present on the PowerPoint or the handout or anything like that, but I do have a lot of experience challenges we have faced with the government, but particularly Ontario government, in regards to our land, our traditional land. Summer Beaver was established in 1975. People built that community by themselves without any government assistance. And we did it. We built a community. In 1983, that's when the people did the land use plan. Without government funding or assistance. It was done by the people themselves. They contribute the money to hire a consultant, out of their own pocket, And many elders who had interviewed are no longer with us, and we still have their stories, the knowledge that was passed on to us, back then, And this is very important for us, this document that we have, it's very, that's something that we wanted to keep, and we don't want to give it away. It's ours, and so 2.5 years ago, when this Far North Act came in play, that's when the government, particularly MNR, Minister of Natural Resources, hand out the money to, offering the First Nations to do the plan. And we keep telling the MNR that we already have a plan. And they don't want to take it. They don't want to recognize it. They want to do it with the First Nations the way they want to do it, under the Act. And it's, and we've been facing a lot of challenges. When I first hired to be a coordinator on this project, I went to see MNR officials here in Thunder Bay. I met with them, and I asked this question: where is this community-based land use planning a title came from? And what does really mean, community-based land use plan? When you sign a TPA, that's transfer payment agreement with the government under this new process. It's really government-driven process. And here they call it community-based. It's not really a community-based process. It's government-driven process. So I'm not here to promote the Far North Act, that community-based land use planning. process that Ontario wants us to get involved. It's not a good process, from my opinion, in my experience. So that's all I wanted to share at this time, because if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer the best way I can, and with the challenges I have with M&R.
All right, well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. They've touched on all my questions. I do have 4 questions, and then we'll go through a PowerPoint, and then we're going to open up the floor to all the delegates here to ask questions as well. But Tommy, it was a great, because you're just starting off with my first question. So what are some of the challenges that your land use planning team faced during the final stages of your plan? You want to go ahead with that?
What was some of the challenges we faced to complete our plan? We're still not complete our plan. Constance Lake is still feeling very similar to what Summer Beaver's feeling. It's a challenging process. It's full of conditions. And there's a lot of questions we've had that have gone unanswered. But we're still continuing to proceed because we believe this is for us. This is an element, an exercise that we need to do, regardless if the ministry is helping or not. We're still going to be going ahead with this. And yes, the resources they provide are filled with conditions, but really we're doing what we have to do, condition here and there, but we're still pushing ahead. But we just wrapped up our terms of reference, and it kind of spells out how we're going to move forward. And that took a lot of effort, a lot of engagement with the membership, a lot of engagement with our partners, a lot of engagement with the province of Ontario, and a lot of engagement with our leadership. But the working group has really put their foot forward, put in a great effort, and we managed to complete this. But it's just the first step. The terms of reference is really just the beginning of how we're going to develop this whole thing. We've got questions like, once we complete this plan, who's going to manage it? Is this thing being drafted and designed so that once a plan is approved and in place, the M&R take over and we're put to the sidelines because the M&R has all the resources and we don't? These are questions we have. It's our assertion that that's not going to happen. And our message out to the ministry is, it's time to start thinking outside the box. If this question's on the table for over 4 years now because I was the first one to table it. I tabled it with the minister, I tabled it with Diane Corbett, and I've yet to receive an answer. Who's going to manage these lands, our lands, once we complete our plan? Yet to receive an answer. But nevertheless, Constance Lake is going to continue to proceed because this is for our youth, this is for our children, this is for our future. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to manage our lands. We are. And that'll be an assertion that we have to exercise, need be, if we come to that point. So we're not too concerned about who's going to manage it anymore. We know we will. But at the end of it, we still got lots of work ahead. And we're starting to get into some costly efforts now. Like, for example, doing environmental assessments. We know these things are million-dollar projects. We need to do this very thoroughly. And we're going to touch on that a little bit in the presentation we make. So I think that pretty much sums up question number 1. I know I've touched on a few others, but I'll kind of jump off board here.
No, that's good. Tommy, did you want to add anything to that, or any of the challenges you guys have faced?
Yeah. Summer Beaver we're on the 3rd year of with this process, and So this year we haven't signed the new TPA because the MNR wants us to launch the terms of reference at the same time. You know, they really, government's really telling us what to do, you know, and it's not what we wanted to do, you know, and we've been trying to holding off, you know, not to rush to get the terms of reference done, because we want to do it right, you know. We want to make sure that in that terms of reference, make sure everything is included. What we would like to see. I know if we're gonna, you know, develop the terms of reference the way we like to do our plan, I know MNR is not going to sign it. I can guarantee that. The minister is not going to sign because one of the things that even the First Nation is really gain on too is the to keep our tradition, our culture, our language. I think it's about time that we should insert our rights. When I talk about the terms of reference, I wanted to develop the terms of reference within our language. As an Anishinaabe, this has never done yet. To the minister to sign with a terms of reference with the syllabics, wouldn't that be something? And that's why I'm saying, you know, I know the minister won't sign it. So we gotta think about those things. You know, we gotta think about who we are, because the Creator, you know, put us on this land to look after our land, and we gotta know who we are. We gotta use what we are given. I got you.
All right, thank you guys for at least touching on some of the challenges. I'm going to put a little twist on it here and ask, what are some of the unexpected benefits or projects that have come from land use planning in your communities, and has it proven to be sustainable for your lands offices?
I think one of the biggest benefits we've seen is, and this is more of a personal sensation that we've experienced with our elders, is that them being recognized for the knowledge and wisdom that they hold, and that they have an ability and a venue to pass it on to the next generation has been one of the greatest benefits of this whole exercise. Many of our elders hold and store the knowledge of the past that have helped us survive, and there was never any real opportunity for them to pass it on outside of direct family. And when we opened up this thing, that was one of the greatest myself, and I think the ladies here to my left will say was the greatest experience through this whole process, and how freely they shared that information without, obviously they had trust in us to share it first of all, but when they started sharing, the information just flowed and flowed, and we couldn't keep up. Still today, we know we got maybe about 8 or 9 elders that have passed and they weren't finished, and now that's lost. But our office has been sustained through several sources of funds. Primarily the Ministry of Natural Resources, Far North Land Use Planning funding has kept our office open. We've also had some industrial investments to support some of our staff, and we've also had some extra applications put into other government funding sources. But it's year to year. It's very unstable. I recall when I had this job, trying to convince the ministry to sign us into a 5-year agreement so that we can sustain ourselves and not have fear of March 31st is around the corner. But no movement in that direction whatsoever. TPAs are year to year, and it's ineffective. It's ineffective. Anything that wants to be processed over a long period of time, the department needs to recognize other mechanisms for funding. Without that, it's going to continue to be a very strenuous, very intense, and most often conflicting process. And if the ministry wants to have this type of process, it's going to come to a halt, because nobody can sustain themselves in this type of environment. And if anybody can get a message out to some ministries and the higher ups, deliver that. We need long-term funding mechanisms. Simple as it gets. We have committed communities, committed individuals in those communities willing to move this yardstick. But without proper funding, adequate funding, and long-term funding, it's a piecemeal approach, and that's the worst thing we can be doing to the natural resources these territories hold. I think that pretty much sums up.
Okay. Tommy, you're up.
The one of the advantages of when you sign the agreement with when we signed the agreement with Debonar is one of the benefits we got out of it is we were able to take the elders out of the land. The first thing I did when I was hired to coordinate this project is to negotiate with Debonar. And I said to the government that I'd rather take the elders, to collect the data, the knowledge, the elders I have now, take them out to the land, the places where they were born, the places where they were raised their children. We have 4 village sites within our area. Those sites were there before the treaty was signed. When I took the elders, it took me 2 years. I did first year. We had to fly them in fly them in. 3 sites we had to fly them in, and one site were just old, one of the old communities, Summer Beaver, old Summer Beaver, just across the lake where we are now. And those 4 sites, you know, that we visit, you know, we collect a lot of stuff. You know, we interview the elders right at the sites, you know, where they had raised, you know, where they were born, and they were able to show us where the old graveyard sites are. You know, well, the old churches were, stores and whatever they had. You know, that's one of the advantages we had. You know, one of the benefits we had from this. You know, we kind of taken advantage of you know, this the money that the government is offering us to do the plan. So we collect those you know, stories. You know, we interview them, we video them. You know, they're on the video, and so hopefully someday we'll, you know, we'll have that into the education system. You know, that's our goal. You know, and those you know, those sites, you know, we found that, you know, they're been there for a long time. You know, that's way before the treaty was signed. You know, that's that's one of the benefits we have so far with this M&R's process.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to also ask you guys now, we're talking about speaking with the elders and hopefully getting some of these stories into the education system. How involved are your youth with land use planning? And if they're not that involved, how do you get them involved? That's a question I didn't prepare you guys for.
We had a youth session here in when was it? In July. We had the younger group and we had the high school setting, and we got them to draw pictures of what the land meant to them, and they come up with very a different idea of what's out there for them, and the young and the high school ones, they're more into technology and all that. They want to do economic opportunities and stuff like that, and some of them still want to be part of the land with their grandparents or parents. But we try to we want to take it into the schools. We want to we did a brochure on how to trap beaver or like marten or something. So we did a brochure, and we also did a video, and we want to make a library in our school for them to learn from it. So I know some of them know how to do it, but at least they'll have like a paper or something, like they're being taught by the elder. Like we have a woman that does it for them, and we also have a couple men that teach them, that take them out. And we did have a program where we took our high school students out last year. For 2 years now we did that in a row. We took our high school students out. I think Roger was part of that program. They took them out trapping, and they did from the time of building it to actually selling it. And the money they received, it went back to the school, and I'm not sure what they did with it after. So we are trying to, we want our youth to be part of it, because they're the ones that's going to be taking it into when they become our age. So that's, we are engaging our youth, and we also have trying to have our youth rep to be the spokesperson to the younger groups. So at one point, we wanted her to do sessions. Like, you could just take maybe what do you call it? Subject headings and maybe just promote it and stuff like that. We're trying to do that, and we're still trying to do that. So we're actually we're supposed to do a presentation at the school on our land use planning once we get back. So that's where we're trying to engage our youth, plus our elders too.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's a language barrier sometimes, and they speak the language, which is good. It's really awesome. But sometimes the younger the kids don't understand. Like for me, I'm kind of embarrassed too, because I can't speak it. So I really enjoy listening to Tommy when he uses the language. So or anyone who speaks it, I really enjoy it too. That's all I have to say for now.
Perfect. Thank you, Bertha. Tommy.
We have youth programs. One of the programs that we have for the last 17 years is called the Youth Retreat program. And we have a camp just outside the community, and we have it every July, the whole week, and everybody's out there, you know, and the community is pretty well empty that week every year, and just, you know, everybody going over there and with their kids, you know, and teach them everything that they know, you know, how to fish, you know, how to look after the animals, and, you know, how to take care of you know, the wastes and stuff like that, you know, and, you know, we gotta pass these on, you know, to a younger generation, you know. And we have the other program we call the Culture Week, which runs one in the spring, 1 week in the spring, and 3 weeks in the fall. We just on our last week, this week, with our Culture Week. Our Culture Week, we take out our youth to out to the camps that we have. Most of our camps we have is flying camps, you know, where we take our youths and families, you know, and just to teach them how to hunt and how to take care of the stuff they kill, like fish, ducks and stuff like that, moose meat, you know. And they're bringing them to the community, and they just share it, you know, to the whole community. And that we still try to pass down that tradition, you know. I know some communities, you know, they're doing different, you know, they competing, you know, and they use like a sport, I guess. But my community is different. You know, they whatever they kill, you know, we tell our youth that, you know, they gotta share what they take from the land. to other people. You know, that's how we try to teach our youth, pass it on to them. You know, and those are the two programs that we have with our youth. And the other thing that I'm working on right now is to, under this land use planning process, I want to take the youth out to the same location where I took the elders. And this time I want to take the youth and maybe a couple elders and one medicine man to you know, to go out there and find the plants, you know, for traditional medicines. You know, these are the things that those youths need to know. You know, and that's where we're planning for our youths for hopefully by next year.
Perfect. I'm going to ask one more quick question before we move on to your PowerPoint. Besides Ministry of Natural Resources or NMDM, is there any other funders or organizations that you would suggest to any of the other community members to try to look for funding or contact for assistance?
It's actually in our PowerPoint.
Okay. Well, we can. Tommy, do you have anybody you want to add?
Do you wanna...
Anybody that's helped you guys?
Yeah, one of the things I would probably suggest is to, we've been engaging with the universities. We deal with the Larson University out of Toronto, and just recently we engaging with the Carleton University out of Ottawa, and they are willing to help. You know, whatever the First Nation need to do. You know, and so I would suggest maybe that, you know, that some of you should approach the universities. And,
Perfect. Okay, ladies, I'll get you set up with your PowerPoint. I want to be able to leave some time for our delegates to ask the panel some questions.
Our presentation is we're going to divide it into three sections. Section. I got a really bad cold. Charlene will start off first, and Roger. Then I'll get do the last portion.
All right. This is our lands management and data collection PowerPoint. A bit about a background of Constance Lake. Constance Lake members are of Cree, Ojibwe, and Ojibwe descent. Our ancestors inhabited the Kanagami, Kabina, Nagagamissis, Pegwashin, Fishimi, Pledger Lake, Little Current, Drowning, Ridge, Albany, Nagagami, Flint Lake, Klotz Lake, and Shagak River systems. The original settlement is a place we call Mamatawa, also known as English River Post. In English, it is translated as where the rivers meet or where the people gather. The first contact with the new settlers occurred in the mid-1750s with fur traders. These new settlers set up a trading post at Mamatawa. Between 1925 and 1940, many families from Mamatawa migrated to Pagwa River. By May 1940, the majority of the Mamatawa members resided at Pagwa River, as the Mamatawa Reserve was deemed uninhabitable. Employment opportunities at Callstock Sawmill led to another community migration from Pagwa River to our current location, Constance Lake First Nation, and it was established in 1945. Here's a migration trail at Mamatawa and at Pagwa and to the now Constance Lake. And here are some photos of our community gatherings at Mamatawa. And there's an aerial view of Constance Lake. A history of data collection. Our ATK collection began in the early 1970s. In the early 1980s, Constance Lake worked with an archaeologist named Dr. Pollock. Unfortunately, Constance Lake lost a lot of valuable information due to a fire of a storage building that destroyed all the material. And in the 1990s, we had Edith Moore and Charles Baxter Sr. In the 2000s, Sarah Allen, Stanley Stevens, Roger Wesley, and 2010s, Bertha and myself all helped collect data. The methods, elder interviews, like individual interviews or group interviews, community focus groups, youth engagement sessions, one-on-one interviews, all recorded via audio, video, paper. We digitized our mapping values and paper documents, and we also back up all of our data. Information management. We are currently in the process of coding all of our information in a metadata table and identifying our information gaps. All our knowledge stays with Constance Lake. All traditional knowledge used to support the land use planning process will remain the intellectual and legal property of Constance Lake and will only be shared with the public at the sole discretion of the our First Nation community. Safeguards. We always ensure our information is protected. We have drafted agreements on how the information will be shared and utilized. We are cataloging existing data and ways of backing up and storing, i.e. on server, camera, video, USB, or external hard drive. Examples, paper, written documents, server, pictures. Goals. I think this is where Mr. Wesley comes in.
Anyways, our goals are, first of all, to build community capacity, to develop an educational product to insert into our school curriculum, to be taught to our children for the next 7 generations, and so on. So our knowledge is passed on to our greatest assets for generations to come. We're also looking at developing a sharing tourism product to market our way of life and our lands to the rest of the world via internet and web marketing. We're also looking at developing all sustainable development projects on our traditional territories to generate a greater diverse natural resource development economy. And we're also looking at developing our self-governance structure to manage all activities on our traditional territories and to fulfill our rightful place as stewards of our lands now and onward. The educational product. We'd like to create an interactive digital product that could be utilized in the classroom. We want to create it with links to maps, sites, stories, actions, and historical documents. For example, you've seen that migration map. We'd like to have that on a computer monitor in a classroom where the kids can play with it. They can point to pics on all over that map that may have an elder story or an identification of a first kill or an identification of a fishing hole and all this different type of stuff. So it's interactive that the kids can access it. It'll be a tool that will add to the curriculum of Constance Lake First Nations history and storyline for all age groups within our educational system. So the little ones can play with it, right up to the high school students doing big research projects on it. So it's always growing. It's always never stagnant. Always can add more, can put in more, because we are so much more. And we also wanted to use it so that our youth will learn about their Aboriginal rights, such as hunting, fishing, trapping, and gathering, as well as our values and our standards as depicted from our way of life with the land. So it's not just a fancy tool that you can come in the classroom and play joystick with. It's also going to teach you our values. Why do we respect the animals as we do? What's the purpose of every species? What's the need and what's the use of everything that's on the traditional territory? Why is the water important? Why is the moose important? Why do we not make a mess when we're in the lands? Why do we bring our garbage out when we have to, or when we're there? You know, these are the basics of developing a base of values. And this is the stuff we want to incorporate into our youth while they're sponges, into our youth while they're just, you know, they say a child's learning curve is so great that you can pump anything in there, they'll be able to use it. This is the time to pass that knowledge, that information, those standards, those values into our youth. We're also looking at creating a product that can be utilized on the internet and web to promote Constance Lake First Nation storyline and our traditional territories. We want to create a marketing tool to promote our Aboriginal way of life and our traditional lands to the world, to increase tourism and for sharing our value systems with the rest of the world. You know, when we talk about respect, we're talking about respecting the land, respecting all life. You sit beside a businessman and his idea about respect is making more money. They're in collision. They're in conflict. We want to share our story about why the world is important, why Mother Earth is important, why you only think about money. Think about what's really important. Think about where you're going to be buried. Think about all these other great things that are just as great value as money is with the rest of the world. Part of that is applying a key component of our way of life, sharing our knowledge with those who want to learn our way of life and what we know of and how we understand sustainability and management of our lands. So there's a lot more stuff. Part of us, Aboriginal people, is about sharing. It's a very key element of our makeup, a very vital exercise that we must do to find happiness, to find self-worth. And it's called sharing. And we do it for free because it makes everybody better. Not me. I learn from the next guy. The next guy learns from me. It's sharing. Sustainable natural resource development. Has everybody, I don't know if everybody in this room seen that big nasty water break in BC there last month? That was a 1 in a million, so they say, 1 in a million chance of happening. Well, if we're going to open up any natural resource development, it's going to be to the highest standard possible. Constance Lake is pro-development community, provided the development is sustainable and environmentally secure. Not environmentally sound, environmentally secure, which means, no, there ain't 1/1,000,000th going to happen here. It means if it ain't a guarantee, it ain't going to happen. We currently are looking at developing several mines, commercial forestry, hydroenergy projects, and tourist camps in our northern territories. These projects will, without doubt, change the landscape forever, so we must be vigilant to ensure all is done to the highest standard possible to ensure environmental security and project sustainability. Again, security, not social or acceptable, but secure. The infrastructure requirements will be enormous, thus major planning and studies will be required to get it right so that all projects or developments are less impacting to our lands and our way of life. When we talk about our lands, we're talking about wildlife. We're talking about the fisheries. We're talking about the water. We're talking about the insects. That's what's going to be impacted with development. Not my paycheck or my way of life, but all things that are valued to me. All things I am a part of will be impacted. So we have to make sure we do the proper planning. We get heavy-duty studies. we do everything that we can to ensure less impact. This kind of leads straight into self-governance. Through opening up our northern territories to economic development, there will be an enormous amount of wealth created through developing our natural resources. It is Constance Lake First Nation's intent to assert its authority over its lands through profit-sharing agreements with developers, revenue-sharing agreements with other levels of government on taxation, royalties, permits, etc. Constance Lake will also be a primary benefactor to all development projects as we aim to service all developments with our business partners and local businesses. And through capturing a piece of the wealth, Constance Lake First Nation will now be able to afford to govern and assert its authority on its lands. You can't govern if you don't have a revenue source. Currently today, Constance Lake is a third-party management party to the federal government. We are not managing our own affairs. We are not managing our own monies. We are managing the federal government dollar. We are doing their job for them. Until we can have our own sources of revenues, our own agreements with other levels of government, and agreements with the developers, and creating economic wealth through contracting and other businesses, that's when we'll have the wealth to afford to govern ourselves and to assert and exercise our standard of practice on our lands. And that's what we're aiming for. This process here is the beginning to get to here. With or without Ontario, we aim to get here. It's nice that Ontario is with us at this stage, helping us with, and this is what my elders say, table change to do what we're doing. Every application we put in with an X amount of dollar, we've never received that X amount of dollar to this day. We've always received a fraction of it. Anyhow, I think that's my portion to step down.
Okay, you notice this photo is where, when we're talking about economic opportunities, that's the AMIC that is doing the, most of the
Cutting,
cutting. That's where Rogers
This-
manages, AMIC.
This is a feller buncher cutting a strip. You can see he's coming back out. He's gonna go back in, cut another strip. And then after, someone's building a road in front of him so we can haul that wood out.
So this is when we gather, this is one of our elders meeting we had, and I think it was November, I think it was 2 years ago in November. We had a session in our community. That's when, that's Roger right there, that's when he was chief. So we had a session there with the elders.
And I tell you, when you're sitting with the elders and you keep your mouth shut, you pick up a lot.
And this is at the school where we're talking about getting the teacher is the one that's cutting up showing them a signs of an animal. And behind her, that's Charlene, his father, Ken. So we're teaching them when they were getting the marten. I guess they're dissecting him, I guess, whatever. They're learning about the marten, I guess.
Yeah, I think they took the fur off and then got it nice and stretched. Then they kept the carcasses for biology class.
Yeah. And over here, there's Stanley, the one with the checkered shirt, and he's a member of our team. And Derek Inez is another member of our team, and he's the trapper traditional user. So these two we had a trapping conference in our community, and they were see who would skin it the fastest. That's why they're both up there. So I really don't know who won.
I think the elder on the right won that one because the young guy let him, just to pay respects.
And these are one of the elders that picks up our medicinal plants that we do in the community. So that's he's just showing the type of medicinal plants.
Has it got cedar there, or is it?
That's cedar, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is when we went down to, we had our nation-to-nation meeting. That's when Roger was chief. This is with Fort Albany
Martin Falls.
and Martin Falls. So we went to Mamatoa, one of our camps. So that's so we took a black and white photo of all the. They had the youth and elders came that attended, and we also had our youth and elders attend also.
It was one of those great times too where we got reined in. So all the adults went into one cabin, all the teenagers went into another cabin, the cooks and staff were in another cabin. So I kind of got stuck with the leaders of Fort Albany. And I wanted to be with the youth actually because I wanted to hear what they wanted to say on some of the projects we were talking on. But I got caught up with the politicians and the leaders of Fort Albany. And you know, it's one of those times where you had to be there. The conversation, the intensity, the liveliness, and just the dialogue was so phenomenal. You know, I was actually on my way home that day. I had the boat motor full tank, and I was motoring, and I got about around 2-3 corners, and I saw 3 or 4 big logs on the river. Because the water was unbelievably high at that time. It was supposed to be going down, but it was still rising. So I said to myself, okay, this is a sign, Roger, turn around. It's getting dark. You can hit one of these things in the dark, and who knows what can happen. So I turned around, and I ended up spending the night in the camp. And we stayed up till about, I don't know, close to midnight, with a kerosene lamp, fire going, and just yapping. And we had Charlene's brother was trying to videotape it. I think his batteries died out, and we were talking so long. But it was one of those times where you just were supposed to be there and have that conversation. And nobody was yelling or fighting. We were talking, sharing values. And it was a pretty amazing moment. And then I just love this picture because you see everybody got raincoat on. It actually rained, I think, for about 5-6 straight days. And I'm talking heavy rains. Our waters were so high, and that was supposed to be, I think, early June we were there.
Yep.
And that was, the waters were already supposed to be down. So, but it was beautiful, beautiful time. Okay, so this is where I'll step out here.
Okay, you were asking about our funding, where we get where we access some funding. So we get it from our, where the majority of my funding comes from, for me, is the Far North branch from Timmins. And we also get some, about $5,000 from Hearst Forest, one of the companies from town. And I also have to apply for funding. So I did apply for funding for species at risk, which I was approved for. And I'm also going to be speaking on this on Thursday. And I've applied for the Corda funding for 2 years, which I've got funding for. And I'm kind of debating if I should apply again this year. And we also get, we applied Forestry Trust Fund, but I've never applied there. I know Roger did that in the past. So those are where we apply for funding. And sometimes we don't, sometimes we're not successful, but sometimes we are. Okay, so our next step is, our TOR is done, our terms of reference is completed. And so now what we're doing now is we're analyzing, and we're going to start building our draft plan, and we're going to analyze what we have now. And we're looking at our community's input, and we're hoping 2015 for the Chief and Council to finalize and approve, and implementation review and amend as needed. So you'll notice here, this is what was posted on our terms of reference, our area of interest. So you'll notice there's a little notch missing. That's when we met with our neighboring First Nation, which was Martin Falls. So we've met them in the past. We came up with an agreement. So that's why it looks like that right now. So I know we're going to be meeting with other neighboring nations. There's probably going to be a little piece missing here and there, but this is what it looks like today. And so you'll notice there's the core area is the real dark yellow, which is the area of our area of interest. The one beside it, the next one up, is where we want to have I might as well go forward. Okay, the area, constantly appropriate neighbor has a shared influence over decision making. So the top part is the area where it has less, we want to know what the other community is doing, but we're not going to say you can't do that. So we just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Okay, so we're in our draft. We're going to start doing our drafting plan, or we're going to have our community engagement. We're going to be meeting with our partners and parameters like the First Nation, MNRF, MNDF, MOE, and identify protection objectives like our sacred sites, spawning areas, burial sites, etc. And we're also going to identify our economic opportunities like hydro forests, hydro mining. Okay. Our goal is to build a plan. Our goal is to build a plan that is based on community consensus. Okay, utilizing ATK. ATK is vital to our planning process. Our plan will be built upon knowledge in the past and our future, guided by our community. I think that's it. You good? And there's myself, Charlene, and Roger, and our information. And I didn't get, if anybody wants a copy of our PowerPoint, I didn't get time to make copies, but if you really need it, I can make copies for you. So that's it.
Okay, so we've got a few more minutes left, and we can open up the floor. Is there any questions anybody has? Okay, great.
Hi, I just want to know, what are your protection measures to make sure that your sites are protected? Is that through the MNDM to withdraw some of these areas, or is that something that Constant Lake is looking at a different approach to protect those values on your land?
You want to grab that one?
Yeah, we did apply for that through SOAKS at sites of Aboriginal cultural significance through MNDM. We have done that for 18 sites so far, and we're working on it to do more through that process.
Do you have a lot of issues with neighboring communities having distrust, I guess, about the process that you're going through with the M&R? Because that's one of the challenges we're facing.
I think that no matter how you look at it, that's going to be a problem. But we've taken the perspective of, we're going to identify an area that we think is ours, and we're going to have a couple of boundaries. One that we have shared interest, and then the other one we just want to be informed of. And that's why you see that 3-layered map. And we've been pretty proactive in reaching out to our neighbors and informing them what we're up to. Like, I think we've had meetings with just about every First Nation that surrounds us now on the north end. We still like to do this to the south territories as well, but we haven't. But we've reached out to all our northern communities, and we've had several open dialogues. So, like you said, that little dent. You seen that little dent there? One of our neighbors said that, well, we want to take the lead on that. It's okay, and we let them. So we're kind of open to work with anybody, but we know where our land is, and that's something that a lot of the other communities are struggling with. Like, where is the boundary line, or where is the region? What river do you go up to? A lot of other First Nations that we've come across really don't know. Us, we kind of have a good defined area, so it's kind of a bit easier. But when you don't have that area, then you get into that overlapping issue, and it's going to be a struggle. Unless you try to be open, and that's all you can do.
Just a quick question about the 18 sites that you withdrew under SOAKS. Did you use MNDM guidelines, or did you have an internal process for identifying those sites?
Well, we actually we looked at the current mining claims that have been popping up in our traditional area. So we kind of gravitated towards where our values were and where those sites were popping up. So we wanted to make sure that those were protected before more start, engulfing our sacred sites. So that's how we picked and chose like those first 18.
Those 18 were more burial sites, or?
Yeah, yeah, they were mostly burial sites.
About those 18 sites, I'm just curious because I see a lot of different ways and how MNDM has these policies. Was there already previous mining claims when you withdraw on those sites? Meaning, was there already a claim there when you identified, hey, I have a cultural site there and it has to be withdrawn? Was there already a claim there, or?
There was one site that we bypassed because there was already a claim, and we were told that we couldn't claim that because someone already had a claim on it.
That's the point here.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of issues with this. I work with Mushkegowuk, and the regulation, if there's already a previous mining claim, it's very difficult to withdraw those mining rights and surface rights. So that's one thing that has to be identified to the province, because there's going to be online staking coming in the future in 2016. And that's one thing that some of the communities have to get ready for. Because if those claims are already there, those leases, we can't withdraw on those mining rights and protect those values.
Just to add to that, it's a two-way street. They put a claim there, and we put a protective zone around it. Their claim is neutralized. So just because the claim is there, it's not the end of the world. And you know, 1 out of 1,000 claims are actually turned into a mine. So the odds of any claim being developed is the odds are against it. So spending too much time on, you know, a lot of energy going into fighting a certain claim could be really utilized elsewhere. I would recommend that if it's a claim, it's still got a long process to go, but if you want to really neutralize it, zone around it. And what can they do? The whole area around your claim is untouchable. They're going to have to air out their product, and nobody can afford that. We're still early at this, right? Identifying the sites. So, you know, come back next year. We'll have a whole presentation on that alone. But right now, we just started. We identified 18 sites, and those are more like burial old grave sites. And now we're starting to move into water protection zones, wildlife protection zones, and you know, habitat zones. We're just starting to get into it, and that's where we're reaching again to the elders of. Where's the moose trails? Where's the mating sites? Where's the birthing sites? And that stuff is going to be, you know, highly more important to protect than a mining claim.
Are you working with the MNR regarding those zones, or is that something Constant Lake has in your?
We've been working with the ministry folks that are on the Far North office, the branch. And but they're a pretty good bunch. They're not telling us how to do it or where to do it. They're just trying to help us. So it actually works pretty good for us. But like I said, we're just beginning this removal process. At the end of it, a lot more pieces are going to be safeguarded.
Yeah, they actually don't have access to our traditional values. Like, we have a values collection map. They don't have a copy of it. We keep it with us.
Your information that you're gathering, who will it be available to once it's been, you know, passed and approved by your chief and council?
That's going to be at the sole discretion of the leadership and the community. It's not for me or us to say who's going to have access. If the chief and council and the community want a mining company to have access, and they paid for it or something like that, maybe. Or maybe we want to build a relationship with another community. So that will be up with the chief and council as well as the community.
What is one piece of advice? I'm going to say one piece of advice because I know we probably got a lot. One piece of advice that you would give to other communities.
Oh, community engagement sessions can be difficult. Like, not everyone comes out, and that was always a problem But incentives are nice, draws to help get the people out, door prizes and feasts, food, everyone comes for food, so just for community engagement purposes, that's a little piece of advice. That's what helped us.
I guess one of the things that's, land use planning is very, very important. It's us taking ownership as stewards of our traditional territories. And this is not something to be taken lightly. There's a lot of responsibility and a lot of accountability on the shoulders of the people that get to do this. So having a network of support, from leadership, as well as co-workers and community members, community leaders, that's essential. If you're going to tackle this, there's so many things that are going on in governance and land management and all this, and the rules are changing every day. If you don't have a good network, it's going to get too heavy. And we're human beings. We're not robots. We're not rocket scientists. We're just regular folks trying to accomplish a job that's under-resourced, understaffed, and everything else. But we're still trying to muck through it. You go to the ministry and they're managing a forest unit. They have a district manager. They have an area forester. They got a biologist. They got a compliance officer. They got an SFL company with equal staff. And they got 3 or 4 companies with equal staff. It takes about 50 to 100 people to manage a forest unit. Our territory is probably equivalent to 3 forest units. And we have 2 people putting this together. We do the math, you do the body count. At the end of the day, the First Nations are developing something that's, that needs more.
Perfect. All right, I think we're going to end a little early today. I'd like to personally thank you and on behalf of NOFNEC for taking the time today and sharing your journey. Perfect. Thank you.